Hello viewer, I'd like to introduce you to a fantastic professor here at Palm Beach State for whom I've prepared a few questions. She has requested that she stay anonymous, so I'll refrain from using her name. Now, Professor, my first question is, about how long have you been a professor?
In college, I've been here at Palm Beach State for 24 years. 6 of those years in the beginning were as an adjunct professor.
All right, that's a lot of experience, my goodness.
Well, that's here at the college. Prior to that, I taught in public schools in upstate New York.
All right, definitely. And what can you tell me about your education? What degrees and certificates do you have?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics Education. Earning that enabled me to teach math in the high school and middle schools in upstate New York. Then I also have a Master's in Science for Teachers. That enabled me to teach the sciences in the high schools as well. And when we moved to Florida, I became very interested in teaching at the college. And so I earned an educational specialist degree in mathematics, which enabled me to teach the college level math, which is where I am now.
All right. And I'm in your college algebra class. If you can, just tell me what college algebra is all about, really.
College algebra is the introductory course at the college level within the algebra sequence. This has very little geometry in it and no trig or calculus, but it's one of the bases of most of the mathematics that you'll see in your everyday life comes from the algebra classes. Algebra teaches not only logic and preparing to do word problems and lifelong learning problems, but it also gives the student a basic knowledge of what he or she would need in order to continue in any of our college classes.
Okay.
It's a good course.
Definitely. I think so. And in this class specifically, what does a student need to succeed? What characteristics or qualities is best for a student to have?
If you're talking about characteristics and qualities of the student,
yes.
I like my students to be dedicated students. What I call intentional students. So a student who is in the class, prepared to attend the class, to arrive to the class on time, to ask questions, to collaborate with his or her fellow students, asking lots of questions and intending to do well and pass the course. If you're asking what are the prerequisites for this class, that's another question. And the prerequisites are simply to either have taken the 2 years of high school algebra or taking our intermediate algebra class here at the college, or having a score high enough on one of the standardized tests.
All right. That's good information to have either way. Definitely.
Okay.
And now, in your classes, what do you do to help students succeed?
Well, I love to teach, and so I would like to think I bring a certain amount of enthusiasm to each of my classes. We at the college, we have a program called the SI program, the Supplemental Instructor Program, which is offered to those courses which are high-risk classes. And the supplemental instructor is a student, himself or herself, who has already gone through the course and team teaches, so to speak, with me, not necessarily in the class, but as an additional time outside of the class. This SI assists in homeworks, preparing students for tests, and just basically assisting the student in any way possible so that he or she would get the best education and the most out of the course. Along with the SI program, there are other things that we do. Hopefully the lectures are organized lectures, and the lecture that I typically organize is one basically from the textbook, because when the student is not in my classroom, his or her primary resource is the textbook. So I like my students to know the textbook, feel comfortable with the textbook, and also be able to read it. So that, in addition to the SI program, as well as collaboration. I'm the kind of teacher that I like collaboration in the classroom, because I feel as though students really do learn best from other students, and it is a win-win situation, because the student who is teaching another student how to do a problem or teaching them the concept that is being taught in the classroom, the student who is teaching it learns it more, I think definitely better, and organizes their thoughts, and also the student that is being taught by his peer or her peer is being given the information in another way than the teacher actually presented it. So it's a win-win situation, and collaboration, I like to have a lot of collaboration in my classes, all my classes, not just the college algebra, because I think it's definitely a good way for a student to learn the material.
Definitely.
So those are just a few.
That's excellent. That's fine. And now I'd just like to ask, how am I doing in your class so far?
You're doing wonderfully well. My top student, I will add.
All right.
So,
thank you.
Congratulations. You seem to understand the material, and you also seem to enjoy the class and coming to class.
Absolutely.
And you're one of the better student peer teachers. As you noticed even today in class, that one of the students said, Jeffrey, can you help me out with this one? So
I do the best I can. I may not be as good a teacher as you, but I try my best every day just to try to think of how I might teach it to somebody, and I'm very proud when I can help one of my peers reach that point where they're like, oh, I get it now,
Yep, light bulb goes off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you're very patient as well, so that is a good characteristic to have in teaching.
Definitely. All right, so Professor, what would you say is your job really, and how does it differ from a high school or a middle school teacher's job?
My job, hopefully, is to the students that I have in my class, to assist them in learning the material of the course. Mathematics, most of mathematics is a very linear approach. You need to know and understand Chapter 1 in order to do well in Chapter 2. And it's building these basic building blocks that I hope I am portraying to our students so that they understand the material and truly learn the material. There's a difference between a student who comes into class, sits through class, and understands how to solve an equation. Here's the equation, my answer is 2, or my answer is 29. And a student who comes in and not only understands the mechanics of solving the equation, but understanding why we are solving the equation to answer the bigger problem, which may indeed be a word problem, which most students don't like to do. But so trying to teach, and I hope that this portrays in my classes, where we need to learn how to crawl before we can walk and before we can run. And depending upon which class you're in the college math curriculum, a college algebra course is really teaching the basics and the fundamentals of algebra. And so we're still crawling at this stage. You go on into trigonometry and then into calculus, and that's where the walking and the running are starting. Mm-hmm. So in your college algebra class, I would like to think that I'm exciting my students to the possibilities that are out there and teaching them that math is a beautiful topic and we see it in everyday life. And I find, because I had the opportunity to teach in high school and in a middle school,
all right.
I find teaching at this level, at the college level, much more rewarding for me. In high school and in middle school, I felt as though I was bogged down with a tremendous amount of paperwork. There were a lot of meetings. There were student-teacher conferences. Now, all of these things are good things, but at the college level, while, yes, I do have paperwork to do, I have a lot of tests to correct, but it's more student involvement. And I feel as though I have more freedom at the college level of teaching the way I want to teach and what I want to teach. It's just an exciting time. I love being at the college, and I feel as though I found my niche. So,
that's great.
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Oh,
I believe
okay.
so, definitely. All right. And just in general now, how much would you say is a student's success dependent on their professor?
The infamous bad teacher. I had a bad teacher, which is why I failed the course.
Right.
In an ideal situation, it would not matter if the teacher were the best teacher in the world or the worst teacher in the world. Because if you are an intentional student, if you're dedicated, if you're passionate about learning, you should learn the material regardless of what the teacher is teaching you.
Right.
So, for example, one of the hardest classes I had in college, and you're going to laugh when you hear it, was calculus. My Calc 1 teacher in college, I thought, was a horrible teacher.
Okay.
And so it got to the point where I was teaching myself the material. And I was losing out on a lot of the concepts. And I was just doing the mechanics of calculus. But because I really wanted to learn, and I was dedicated and determined to learn, no matter how good or bad the teacher was, I took it upon myself to do study groups, go to other teachers, and I found a mentor who was another math teacher who really enjoyed helping me, or at least he said he enjoyed helping me. And so I was able to not only do well in the class that I was currently taking, but I felt as though because I went above and beyond, I learned more about the beauty of math and the patterns that we see in a calculus class. And for that, I thought I was a better student, and also because I struggled with it, I think I became a better teacher. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So your initial question, how much of learning depends upon the teacher. Certainly a good teacher is worth their weight in gold. But I think a dedicated student and intentional student should be able to learn no matter what kind of teacher they have.
All right. Definitely. And so, sort of moving away from the difficult questions, what do you enjoy about being a college professor?
My students, without a doubt. It's the students that keep me here, students that keep me happy and smiling. I feel as though I am blessed to be given the opportunity to teach our young people. And hopefully in my math class, I'm not just simply teaching the math, but I'm teaching, lessons of life, so to speak, as well. I am an advisor of a club, so I'm very active with many of our students, and they really feed my soul. It's just a wonderful opportunity to be given the chance to make a difference in someone's life. And so hopefully I'm preparing my students for bigger and better things. The sad part about being a teacher, especially at the college level, is that you want your students to do well and to succeed. And for a student to do that, that means the student takes whatever they can take from you, your class, and the college, and then moves on. So we are doing our job if our students move on with their lives, whether it be going to a university or getting another degree or getting that favorite job, that ideal job that they've worked hard for.
Right.
And what happens then is that we then no longer see our students.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very rewarding to me when I have a student who I might have taught 5 or 6 years ago. Just simply send me an email or walk through my office door with a big smile on his face or her face, and it is very rewarding. So being a teacher is it's exhilarating. So the best part of my job are my students.
All right, excellent. And now, with being a professor, what do you find to be challenging or difficult?
This is going to be interesting because challenging or difficult, I would say my students.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Not every student is the type of student that you would like. And when I answered your previous question, I was talking about all my students. But be that as it may, there are some times when I would like to shake my students up a little bit because, they're coming to class late or they're not coming at all. And they don't do the homework, and then they wonder why they fail the course. So that's very difficult for me because I see the opportunities that my students could have, and because of their lack of dedication or lack of ambition, or they're just holding down a seat in class and not really caring about their education. And so I find that to be very frustrating as a teacher.
I can imagine.
And it's very sad because I'm sure that 10 years from now, those same people might answer the question, I slept all the way through college. What was I thinking about? Those are the best years of my life. Mm-hmm. So the most rewarding thing of my job are my students, and the most discouraging thing sometimes can be the students as well.
Definitely.
So.
It's just the nature of people sometimes.
That it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so during your career, tell me about some of the other classes you've taught other than college algebra.
Oh, of course, I taught middle school math and science, and high school math and science. Here at the college, I've taught everything from Prep 1, Prep 2, intermediates, college algebra, of course, trig, survey calculus, calculus, liberal arts math, finite, and basically anything that we have here.
All right.
No, I shouldn't say that. I have not taught the geometry class
All
yet.
right.
But I've also been very pleased and honored to teach the leadership development class here on campus. And for that, there was a certification process that I had to go through that was pretty intensive. But that's a course that takes me outside of my comfort zone, which is really wonderful. And the course itself is exciting. It's a fabulous class, an elective course for our students who take it. And but it says a lot, and the way we teach it, it's a team-taught course. And so there are 2 teachers in the classroom at all times. And the way we teach it reminds me of a graduate program, more of a discussion-based course. So that's one of my keepers. I just really enjoy that course. And then on the outside, of course, I've taught Sunday school and Bible studies, for quite a long time. So, but that's it.
Oh, all right. And now, out of all those classes, what would you say is your favorite?
Probably trig, trigonometry.
Trigonometry.
Trigonometry is one of those courses where a lot of what the students have learned previously, the geometry and the algebra and the logic, all come together. So a student, hopefully, by the time they get to trig, they have all of the basics down. And remember my analogy of learning how to crawl and then walk and then run. And so this is where we're definitely walking and running in a trig class. There's a lot involved in trig, but I think it's one of the best classes. It's probably my most enjoyable course.
All right. And now, sort of the other side. Which class do you not like so much, or is consistently difficult? Can you pick a class?
That's a hard one. I don't know if it would be the course.
Okay.
The last question you asked, I answered it as which course I enjoyed the most.
Right.
There's a difference between the courses taught and the class. A class is an individual,
okay.
An individual class. For example, you are in the college algebra class, but that's the course. So in everything that I've taught, whether it's the prep classes or the calculus classes, there's always one class, one individual 36 people in the classroom class that for some reason I can't get through to.
All right.
And they don't do well in the class. But in terms of which course...
Of course, yes, that's what I meant.
Um,
and if you can't think of a specific course, just perhaps a part of a course or a section in the book, perhaps, that routinely will give you problems.
Well, I know in your course, the topic of logarithms is a topic that gives the students problems.
Right.
Because it's new and it's different and it's sometimes hard to understand. But that would not be a topic that I don't like. I mean, I love logarithms. I think they're just wonderful tools that we have, and certainly opens the door to solving many, many more different kinds of word problems. So
All right.
I don't know if I have a specific course that is my least favorite.
That's all right. That's fine. I can imagine that each course is a balance, definitely.
There are challenges in every class, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And so, back to your education. In your specific field, which would you say that is math?
It is math.
All right. What was the most difficult thing you had to learn during your education?
Probably that calculus class I talked about a few minutes ago.
All right.
Simply because I did not understand my instructor.
Right.
Not to say that he was a bad instructor or a good instructor, but I just was not understanding his teaching style. It wasn't clicking for me. And so that would probably have been my most challenging.
Oh, all right. Now, see, I would usually think that perhaps the highest level math would be the most difficult.
No, because remember, math is all building blocks. So if you have a good foundation, then the next step comes pretty easily. And the class that threw me for a loop was that Calc 1 class.
All right.
But I think that I overcame that by reaching out and asking for help in other places besides my instructor. So that once you understand the patterns and the building blocks of mathematics, then really the sky's the limit here. One of the most interesting classes I took was chaos theory.
Okay.
That was a graduate level class down at Florida Atlantic University, taught by a visiting professor from Germany. And it was a fabulous course. It was definitely thinking outside of the box. And it was just very intuitive and just exciting. So.
All right.
So that would probably have been the highest in terms of rank, the highest math class I've taken, but I did not find that the most difficult. No.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's fine. It was. I definitely wanted to hear about a higher level.
Oh.
Definitely. Okay. So now, sort of just to end this off. What are you doing when you're not being a professor?
Well, I am a wife and a mother. So my children are grown now, but I still very much enjoy being with family, spending time with family and friends. I thoroughly enjoy traveling. So traveling not only within the county, but in the state and in the country and outside of the country. Have not done as much traveling outside of the country because of the time involved. So that will come one of these days. But we have traveled extensively throughout the United States. So travel is something that I'm very interested in. I'm also interested in genealogy. So I've done quite a bit of work and study on my own genealogy and putting that together. My goal there is to kind of produce a book with not just these are my ancestors with the names, dates, death dates, marriage dates, birth dates, but also a narrative of who this person was, what their life was like, their likes, their dislikes, their challenges. And I've begun to do that by talking to my aunts and uncles and parents, and so I'm putting that together, and so that's one of my goals outside of teaching.
Very cool.
Is to do that. And just like everybody else, I enjoy going out to dinner and going to the movies and, being with family and friends.
All right. And I'd just like to thank you so very much.
Oh, well, thank you,
For
Jeffrey.
agreeing to this interview and for all the time and consideration that you put into it.
It's my pleasure, and I wish you well on this journey. Also in college algebra, I know you're going to be doing very well in the course.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.